Welcome back in. Breaking news right now in the double murder trial of Brendan Banfield out of Fairfax County. After 3 weeks and 3 hours on end of deliberations, a verdict has been reached. We're going to take you live inside the courtroom once we get those cameras established where a judge will announce the jury's decision. In the meantime, got Katie Lusso joining us again here. Katie, we are 3 weeks down into this, yes. Right? Verdict watch. We heard weeks of testimony, countless evidence, and the moment now falling today.
It's
any
happening.
Moment now.
Right. Yeah,
the fate of Brendan Banfield.
Right. We've been waiting all day to see if this was going to happen. We know that the jury went into deliberations Friday afternoon, right at 12:30 in the afternoon. They did take that 1 hour lunch break. They continued until 4:30 in the afternoon, and they came back this morning at 10 a.m. and they got straight to work. We do know they took a 1 hour break, but really in the last hour or so, things started to progress. I've been talking to Matthew Torres, our reporter in the courtroom, and he told me about a half an hour ago, the bailiff went in to check on them and was told, hey, we need another 5 minutes, which raised a red flag for us, or a green flag, if you will. Then went back, heard maybe 3 minutes or so, and now we are hearing that this announcement of the verdict could come possibly at 5 p.m., so any moment, really. Okay,
so to bring folks up to speed here, Brendan Banfield is facing a total of 4 charges.
Right.
2 counts of aggravated murder, also a firearms charge and a child endangerment charge. If convicted, he is facing life in prison.
Right.
As for Juliana Margulies, the au pair, the live-in nanny, she pled guilty to a lesser charge of manslaughter, looking at time served and more than likely being sent back to her home country of Brazil. So that is where things stand. I know earlier, for those of you joining us on our YouTube channel, WSA 9, you've been able to ask us a lot of questions. You've been able to comment on a lot of things. And one of the big questions was, what about the death penalty in this case, right? Well, let's just be clear that in 2021, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam abolished the death penalty in Virginia. So if convicted, Brendan is facing life in prison.
A life sentence, right. And we know that Juliana Margulies would likely be deported back to Brazil. So that is what would happen with her next. I know a lot of people have been asking what happens if he is found innocent.
Right.
Well, she still upheld her end of the deal, if you will. So she would likely have a sentencing hearing. When that would happen, probably the next month or so, but not clear.
Also, regarding the charges, we should mention that this is a all or nothing deal.
Right.
Frank Salvedo, our legal expert, has been really explaining how this breaks down. And he said, basically in layman's term, it's a all or nothing package deal. You're going to find him guilty on all of these charges or not, right? So let's also talk about the waterfall note.
Right. So that's regarding the aggravated murder charges. So either they're going to find Brendan Banfield guilty of murdering both Christine Banfield, his wife, and Joseph Ryan, the other man that they allegedly lured to the home, or it's a not guilty for both of them. You can't find guilt of one of their deaths and not the other. So that's what that really means.
Okay. When it comes to the jury, this is we had jury selection on Monday the 12th, right? And I've been saying how surprising it was that they were able to seat a jury so quickly in one day because of the high profile of this case. But we're talking about 12 jury members here, broken up as 7 women, 5 men, total of 16 for the alternates. And we've been saying that if they can't come to well, if one leaves the room, right, they have to literally wait until that person gets back to begin deliberations again. We also talked about with the snow, if someone can't make it in or if someone fell ill, that they would have to literally start over. What were we able to learn over these hours? You know, is this in favor of the defense because of the time passed? Well, what is our legal expert saying?
Yeah, so our legal expert today was Tom Moronic, and he talked about how there's not necessarily a direct correlation between the amount of time it takes a jury to make their decision and what that decision will be of guilty or not guilty, but he said it usually favors the defense that it's taking this long, because if they could get to a conviction, they would have, if they could get there quickly, they would have already been there.
Right.
And we did have all of that deliberation. While it was only a few hours on Friday, they still were in there, but they've also been in there all day today. I think what was interesting, though, is that we didn't really hear about them asking any questions, any of the transcripts. They didn't ask to see any of those. They didn't ask, you know, Frank mentioned the whiteboard to draw out diagrams.
Which could indicate there were some disagreements among the jury pool, right?
Right. So I'm curious to see if they're all quickly came to the same decision, and what that decision was, you know, we could find out anytime now.
Well, we did the closing arguments on Friday, so the jury members had the weekend to think things through. I mean, you know, they had a lot to digest and look over.
Right.
We're talking just on the prosecution alone, there were close to 30 witnesses, right?
Yeah, there were, I believe, 16 witnesses on the prosecution.
Okay, maybe total it was
Yeah, it was
around
about
that number.
30 total witnesses,
Yeah.
and then, you know, 2 of them were brought back multiple times.
Right.
I mean, when you think about Brendan's testimony, he was up there for 2 days. Juliana Press-Magalis was up there for 2 days, and Detective Brendan Miller, he was up there for a while, and the private investigator, Harry Litsky, and they have just received so much information, right? We've been taking notes. I have 2 notepads full of notes.
Yeah, and just hours and
Right.
hours of digital data being looked over, also the bloodstain forensics, you know, it was a lot to take in. So, okay, we again are hearing that a verdict could come down any moment now. Monday, close to 5 o'clock. So, of course, Katie, thank you so much. I know you'll be watching that camera very, very closely and alert us to anything. Thanks for bringing us up to speed right now. Okay.